So there are a lot of great questions at the break, and love the opportunity to interact with you and answer those questions. And this is a big reason why I'm so excited about the fact that we're back here together again. I'm sure many of you feel the same way after you've spent 30 plus years interacting with your clients face to face. It was what you knew and you enjoyed. Big part of it. So spending 10, 12 hours on the screen doing Teams meetings with clients just isn't quite the same. So it's wonderful to have everybody here again with us. So our last session we talked about the options for moving to the cloud, either hosting our Sage 300 solution or actually migrating to Sage Intacct. If we choose to migrate to Sage Intacct, and going through that discovery process with it will give you an opportunity to evaluate the system's capabilities to make sure it is the right fit for you. But if it is, what we're going to talk about now is the process to get you from where you are today on Sage 300 and end up with a beautiful, wonderful solution with Sage Intacct. So anybody done a system migration before? Anybody converted from one system to another? Not an upgrade, but an actual change from one to another. So quite a few people. You guys are very valuable people because you've experienced the process of doing it. And you offer that experience to a project because it is a process and it's not simple necessarily. Our job is to reduce the risk and provide the experience, education, industry knowledge, best practices to the process. But as Walt Disney said, basically, there is no magic to this. You know, the devil is in the details. It is a process that you have to go through to get from one to the other. So if we take a look at our implementation methodology, and this is our proprietary methodology that we follow and have followed for doing over 5,000 implementations over those 35 years, we use this methodology to provide the structure to move from one system to the next. At a very high level, we have 8 basic steps that need to be involved. First and foremost, there has to be project management. That's done. And then analysis and design, understanding the need and designing the system to be able to meet the needs of your organization. Then we get into the technical configuration. Data migration is part of it. We have to be concerned with reporting and analytics because usually it is one of the biggest drivers to move you from one system to the next. There's the education side of things. You know, as we mentioned before, Sage Intacct is a real-time processing system. If it's not batch-oriented, you need to understand and learn how to work with the system itself, and it does work differently. And then, of course, the most important piece, which is testing. Because if we don't test properly, we're probably going to fail, or we're going to have a whole lot of problems once we go live. And then the last piece is the actual go live process itself. So within a team or project, there has to be a project team. From the back side of things, we have a designated project manager, a business consultant that understands the technology, understands the application, understands accounting, and knows business process and how to bring all of that together for you. We also may be dealing with integrations, integrating other applications that you may have. If you're a nonprofit, you may have a fundraising application. If you're in hospitality, you may have a property management application. If you're in transportation, a transportation management system. All of these things. We want to get away from doing redundant data entry. We want to add controls, we want to add accuracy, and we want to automate. This is all part of the digital transformation process, is eliminating all of these manual, tedious tasks. From your side of things, you need to have a project manager or a project team, which would include a project coordinator or project manager on your side that would be involved with working with our project managers to have an alignment of the two functions. course, you need an executive sponsor, somebody in the company that is going to own the project and make sure that the people involved in the project have the resources and the ability, are being backfilled, so that while they're working in the project, they have people helping them with the regular work that they need to do as a day-to-day job. And then, of course, functional leads, the experts in your organization that need to know each of the areas that we're going to design the system around and we're going to automate. Reporting specialists, in other words, you need to understand what reports you need out of the system as well. And then people involved for the data migration process. Anybody ever seen this triangle of truth for project management before? This is a big part of our project management philosophy and how it all comes to work as far as quality. So when we do implementation projects, typically we are doing fixed price for a fixed scope and providing services for you. And so our project manager is going to lay the path, the groundwork for everybody to follow when we're doing the project. We'll do a kickoff meeting to get both teams aligned, and then we will build out a project plan that will create that baseline of activities so everybody knows who's responsible for doing what and when, and any dependencies that we have in the project. All of that will be built out so that we can run a proper cadence for the project itself. We hold regular status meetings to ensure everything that's supposed to be done is done and understand what needs to be done next and deal with any risks or challenges that the project may have underway. And if your organization desires to, we can also host steering committee meetings where we get the executive sponsors from both sides together to ensure that things are moving forward and deal with any challenges that may arise. So once we get the project started, we have to go through analysis and design phase. Basically, the analysis side of things is us gathering at the lowest level all of your functional requirements that you need the system to do. We understand your current business process and desired state for your processes. We talk about best practices and how we can leverage automation more into your organization and make decisions around that. We understand what reporting requirements you have so that we can ensure that we're gathering the appropriate data as we go through the transaction process as well. All of these elements, especially with our financial reporting requirements, all have to be given consideration when we do the design. We'll provide you with a summary of findings from that process called the Functional Requirements Document. And this document will provide you with all of the details that we've gathered and allow you to go through and confirm the information that we've obtained is correct and complete. Because from that, we will then do our design process, which allows us to be able to map each of the requirements to how we're going to configure the system to work in your organization. This will also give us a chance to identify any gaps that may exist, meaning what you want it to do versus what it's capable of doing. We don't have alignment there, so how are we going to deal with that? So very important that we go through this process together and we have agreement at the end on that. The ultimate output is the solution definition document that is our roadmap then to head into the technical configuration. So I'm going to stop there and again ask if there's any questions on what I've shared so far. Yes?
I know this is going to be a very big change. We're coming from safety one. So I just want to hear your suggestions on the change in this process itself, the impact on the internal staff. So what they will even expect the change on the internal staff doing the finance.
Yeah. And so that element is when we look at change management as part of the process, very important piece that we do in coordination with your team. So we can be engaged to assist in the change management process, but a lot of it is going to be your functional leads are going to be involved in identifying this is how we used to do it, this is the way we're going to have to do it, and putting together your own documentation. We typically don't provide that documentation. We can. It's expensive. You don't. It's usually best done by your team because you understand your operation more intimately. And you're going to understand how it's going to impact not only that particular process or that area of the organization, but also the people too. Because we're not made to be the same, right? We're all different people, and so the impact is going to be different. So we can work through a change management process with you as part of that, but that is critical to the success of that. And we also deal with that at the end of the implementation or as we're going through user acceptance testing to confirm that people are understanding the new process and the impact on what they do. And we confirm that everybody's ready before we actually cut over and go live. So once we've completed the design of the system, then we have to move into the technical configuration. And that's where the two smart guys here at this table, Joe and Perriman, they go away and they do their wonderful part with the application to basically configure it to make it work. Whether it's all of the setup, all of the flags that are necessary, the transaction definitions, the approval workflows, all of the things that will now work in alignment with the desired process that you want to have. Okay? So all of that will be done for them because once they complete that configuration, that's going to be used for you to be able to use the system for training, to understand how to use the system, and also for the testing process. And of course, your testing that will be tweaked for you to use. Data migration is the next step. And of course, we talked about this earlier because we want to first know what data we need to bring from your existing system over. And there's different levels of data migration that are required. There's our master files, like our chart of accounts, our vendors or customers and things like that. That's the easy part. The chart of accounts can be difficult because if you have multiple companies and you need to standardize, we can also assist with going through a process of re-engineering your chart of accounts. But one of the key features of Sage Intacct is the use of dimensions. And dimensions are a new way of looking at the way you design your chart of accounts. Sage Intacct doesn't use a segmented chart of accounts like Sage 300 does. So you may have an account and a department, maybe line of business or project or however in your chart of accounts. So if you're a nonprofit, program, fund, it could be any of those things. Sage Intacct uses only a native account. And then we add dimensions. Dimension is just simply a way to tag a transaction with certain values. So with any transaction, you can say, well, that belongs to this vendor or this customer, or it belongs to this employee, or an item if we're dealing with products. We can do department, we can do class, location. All of these entities can be applied to a transaction. And when you've done that, your ability to analyze your information becomes just that much easier. So there's a whole process that goes there. And again, when the gentlemen show how the product works, they'll show you what the dimensions can do and the power of that. But with data, we've got to also then map our old chart of accounts to what the new chart of accounts is going to look like. We have to consider historical information from our GL. So we need to say, okay, well, how many years of historical GL information do we want? Typically, we do one, so you can do comparative financial statements, but some people may want 7 years of detail in their system. So that needs to be taken into account, and we can do that as well. Reporting and analytics with Sage Intacct, there's over 150 reports in the system available out of the box. Everything from your income statements or revenue and expense statements, your balance sheets, cash flow statements, all of those things, plus all of your standard operational reports, aged payables, receivables, those types of things. All of that's there and available. You can take a report, you can copy it, you can modify it. The real strength in Sage Intacct is its built-in reporting capabilities. Again, the core of the product was designed by CPAs for CPAs. The product originally was used for doing outsourced accounting services for CPAs up until about 2005, and then it moved to general business availability. So because of that design, they made reporting, the development of reports, really easy in Sage Intacct. So we're kind of a wizard-driven type scenario to be able to build out reports. That combined with the power of dimensions makes it a very powerful reporting solution. Very rarely do we see users of Intacct having to move to a different reporting solution to meet their needs. With education, of course, you need to learn the application because it is different. Of course, the way we learn today is a little different than the way we used to learn. So there are on-demand video training courses available for you to learn and understand the fundamentals of the system. And we combine that with instructor-led training for you as well on those areas that are uniquely configured for your organization. And then we'll walk you through everything right to your first month-end process. The last piece before go live is user acceptance testing. This is where you need to understand or learn how the testing process is going to do. We provide you with education on the process, best practices, and support to take you through testing. You'll need to develop test scripts, basically identifying all the different type of transactions, typical, non-typical transactions that you would do, so that you can test the system before we cut over and go live. No longer is this need to do any type of parallel operation of the system. And I think we've probably done one in the last 5 years. And once they completed about 3 months of going in parallel operation, they stopped and said it was the worst experience of their life to do so and felt it wasn't necessary. So testing is critically important to ensure that the system is going to operate properly, that everybody understands the use of the system and are comfortable with going live. That's where we do simply the final data migration. Again, we ensure that everybody's ready to go live, that our opening balances equal our closing balances in the two systems, and we have the complete audit reports in place so that when your auditors confirm that one system equals the next, they're happy with that. And as I mentioned, we go through supporting you through your first month end and bank reconciliation. So at a high level, that's basically the process of going from Sage 300 to Sage Intacct. And of course, our team is there to support you through that process, provide you with the education, handle all the heavy lifting on the technical side of things, and just help you manage the risk through the implementation process. And I think how many minutes we got left?
We got three.
3. I'll take some questions at this point then. Yes?
What is the, before you alluded to that Sage 300 and Sage Intacct has some features that 300 does not have. Did that understand?
Yeah, no, and that's true. Yeah, now that list is a mythical list, and I'm not sure if I could take the time, we don't have enough time to kind of go through that, but
What are kind of some of the differences?
again, the design of the chart of accounts is one of the biggest things that you're going to see is completely different. And trust me, we've taken organizations with 100,000 accounts in their chart of accounts down to what, like 200 accounts. Like if you can imagine, it just strips it right down, which is wonderful. It makes the trial balance just that much easier to deal with. So that is definitely one of the greatest benefits of it. The reporting capabilities. Okay, if you're using FR and 300 or you're using Sage Intelligence, they're okay tools for their day. They were great, and don't get me wrong, still a great application. I'm not kicking 300 here by any means, but when you see the reporting capabilities in Intacct, you will understand just how much easier it is for the accounting team to be able to develop their own reports. And once you do, that's it. And then you can spend your time analyzing the information going forward instead of having to do that. It's real-time processing versus batch processing. You've got approval workflows built in, where 300 you don't. There's all of these things, let alone it being multi-tenant cloud, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. Yes?
So for the reporting that you mentioned, the financial reporting that you mentioned, within Sage Intacct, you're saying you don't necessarily want to add something else on to be able to generate financial statements as well?
Yeah, that's correct.
Was that, if you're doing auditing statements, you want to be hold close to it, yeah, a lot of people would, but all the numbers, even your in sheets, all that, and yeah, you got one package on this.
Can you repeat that, because we didn't hear it?
Just give over the mic.
Yes, please.
Sorry, with the financial reporting, so if you're doing your case financials, your balance sheet, income statement, cash flows, any supporting schedules, you can do all those within Sage Intacct, group them up as one package of reports, and have them for the auditor when they come in. You can also, for those financial statements, create your own lead sheets as well. Any notes in financials, of course, you have to do it anyway. So that's not there, we just look them up. A lot of my clients, what they're doing is they're using one of their employee user licenses for their auditors. So they're now allowing auditors to sign into the system, view the data, and then of course that frees up the time for all your accounting staff saying, here's the 50 accounts paid invoice that we want you to pull. Now they can actually go down to that transaction, look at and see the actual source of it as well, and any history associated with it.
Yeah, Joe touched on one item that was really important there with the auditors getting access to the system. One of our clients just the other day mentioned to me their audit usually had their auditors on premise for about 6 weeks. They're down to under 2 weeks' time for them to complete that process because they simply didn't have access to the system, stuck them in a room, which we don't like to do with auditors, and they were just had access to the system because all of your decisions, all your documentation around all your transactions are all in the system itself, so no more pulling stuff in the file. Last question. Yes.
The question is related to the migration project. I just want to know in two pockets. One is the outstanding projects, one is our one is more
Okay. So I think I actually have a slide there. Project timeline. Thank you. Typical project will be 4 months in length. It always depends on scope, meaning just what capabilities we're implementing. It also is very dependent on our clients and their resource availability. Whether they're able to backfill, have dedicated resources to the project or not. All of those things can definitely come into play. We've done them in 2 months with dedicated resources on our part and the client's part. We've also taken 6, 7, or 8 months to do because they're much more complex projects, right? I would think probably, in your case, you're probably looking at a 4-month implementation. Yes.
I have different questions. So I understand that has damage to accounting, better user interface, solution. How in the business case you migrate from 6 to 200? I mean, in terms of cost benefits, right? I see. I was thinking about from Sage 300 we are using modeling windows and automation. We're using parking. We are using normally fixed assets. So moving to Sage Intacct, and we experience with the software. And I can see here, when we say Intacct, we're saying you can use some windows. So what is the capability of that? Maybe it's fixed assets, marketing, fee, Intacct. What is the capability of your automation?
Yeah, so the question was around, moving from 300 to Intacct. How do we do really a business case around supporting the decision to do the migration? And that really is on an individual basis. So it's going to be unique to you, unique to you. It's going to be different because you are using some of the cloud connected services on Sage 300. You're used to certain capabilities. If I move to Intacct, do the native capabilities do the same as what I'm used to? Or can I get by with that? Or do I need to add on to do that? It really is an exercise that we need to go through with each client to really evaluate the needs, see where the solution meets that, do we need to add on it or not, and then look at the total cost of ownership. So back to that slide I had, with the iceberg, right? Subscription's only the tip of the iceberg. It's all of the total cost to do so. But I'll tell you, once we start looking at adding on a few features to Sage 300 to fill some of those important gaps like API automation, like reporting and things like that, very quickly you have a business case to migrate to Sage Intacct. But we'd have to go through those numbers and working with Barry, he would be able to help you through that process.
Okay, we should probably wrap up because you guys look like you're starting to get hungry. But there's a few things I'd like to add. So, as far as going through an audit, we're actually looking at doing a webinar with Sage Intacct customers who have gone through an audit because it takes you a fraction of time to prepare for an audit. And the way that Sage Intacct customers have gone through an audit has been a lot smoother. This is not me as a vendor representing Sage Intacct. This is what our customers say. As far as return on investment, we have hundreds and hundreds of customer stories of people who have migrated from various solutions. Some use Sage 50, some Sage 300, some Microsoft, some NetSuite, some Acumatica who have transferred, and they all come back to return on investment. And you wouldn't change unless you had empirical and hard dollar facts as to why you'd want to move. And price differential depending on what you're using. The reality is, you can be saving time in salary, you can be saving time in closing books, you can have increased visibility, you have increased 50 to 60% increase in your financial, the Office of Finance. Plus, the ability to share financial and non-financial data is super powerful because you're not custodians of financial data, but you're custodians of information that's very key to all lines of the business that you're working in. So for me, I'll tell you, I hated accounting in university. I did well in it, but I've been so excited over the last few years because I've been talking to the customers in the US, but mostly in Canada, about what they're doing and where they're going. My background is marketing, and I saw what happened to marketing 10 years ago, and that is happening right now with the Office of Finance. And you look at it, the way I like to talk about it is digital transformation. People, process, and technology. People being the number one asset that you have in your organization, processes that are manual, that can be automated and streamlined, and it's liberated by technology. And you have potentially a real power tool. Now, once again, Sage 300, we are investing in Sage 300. As I said at the onset, they're very, very, very different solutions. When Chuck talks about, the dimension capability, and that's going to be brought up this afternoon, it's like going from a two-dimensional system to a three-dimensional system. And that's not my quote, that's a quote from a CFO that I talked to about 6 months ago. So we will wrap up now for lunch. We will be coming back, so it's not till 1:30, so not 1:15. So I did talk with the boss, Sarah Horsfeld, not Jim anyway. Chuck, I remember seeing Bob Dylan at the Newport Jazz Festival play electric guitar. This guy is a magician. So Chuck, thank you very much for walking it through. Always clear, always entertaining, and content rich. So thank you. This afternoon, we're going to be hearing from Hughes, one of the Sage Intacct Marketplace partners are going to be talking. You're also going to hear from 4 of the vast customers who are going to have 2 sessions talking about their journey and their transformation. One of them is going to be Leanne T from Boys and Girls Club of Canada, who's actually, I'm going to ask her, she's gone through 3 audits with Sage Intacct, so you'll have firsthand in that experience. You'll hear from Paramin talking about dimensions, tips and tricks. You'll hear from Joe talking about tips and trips, and then you're going to have them together tag teaming for the last session of the day. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be great. Enjoy your lunch. See you back here at 1:30.